It was a February 2004 taping of Late Night with Conan O'Brien, and neither Conan nor his studio audience knew they were about to witness television history. Oh sure, guest Paul Rudd was there to promote the heavily anticipated series finale of Friends, but Rudd was only a recurring guest star on that show, so it's not as if anyone was expecting him to come with any particularly juicy behind-the-scenes tidbits, or a heartfelt tribute to the show's 10-year run. And sure enough, they were right. For when it came time for Rudd to honor the time-honored practice of sharing a clip from the project the guest is there to promote, it wasn't Ross, Chandler, Monica, Phoebe, Joey, and Rachel the audience saw, but instead a strange clip of a young wheelchair-bound boy uncontrollably rolling down a hill, eventually plunging off a cliff into a lake, while a strange-looking alien puppet looks on. Yes, this was the first of many, many occasions when Paul Rudd would come onto Conan O'Brien's show, tease a clip from his own project, and instead show the exact same clip from the 1988 film Mac and Me. Much like the satirical Jimmy Kimmel-Matt Damon feud, which actually started 1 year later in 2005, Rudd torturing Conan with the Mac and Me clip has become one of the longest-running bits in late-night TV history. Since that first appearance of the clip on Late Night, Rudd has continued to show it to Conan and his audience dozens of times, not just on Late Night, but eventually bringing the bit over to both incarnations of Conan's later TBS show, and even eventually Conan's podcast, where Rudd teed the clip up by insisting he was about to share a clip of a new audio drama he'd been working on. But no, it was the same old Mac and Me clip, leaving a surprised and exacerbated Conan to admonish Rudd, "You can't do that on a podcast. It's a visual joke." Even in its TV form, the bit did evolve somewhat over the years. During an appearance to promote Judd Apatow's This Is 40, Rudd informed Conan that Apatow had forbid Rudd from showing the clip, though of course he did anyway. During an appearance to promote Ant-Man, Rudd showed the clip with his MCU superhero superimposed into the scene. And when he came to promote Living With Yourself, a show in which Rudd played a dual role as a character and that character's clone, Rudd appropriately modified the Mac and Me clip to include 2 of the titular aliens. Rudd himself has expressed surprise the Mac and Me bit has lasted this long, admitting he only initially did it because, at the time, the practice of having to sell his own wares on TV, as he put it, felt too insincere. Rudd has also revealed the bit almost didn't involve Mac and Me at all, as before that first 2004 version, he had temporarily toyed with using a clip from Bob Clark's Baby Geniuses instead. But ultimately, the Mac and Me clip won out after Rudd stumbled across the film on TV. Rudd has joked Mac and Me is the greatest thing he has ever seen, and while that is almost certainly not true, it can't be denied he is now forever tied to the film's legacy, as he has arguably brought more mainstream attention to the movie than it ever previously enjoyed, including during its original theatrical run. The year is 1988, and Orion Pictures are ready to partner with fast food chain McDonald's to together shamelessly rip off E.T. and in the process launch the next big kids sci-fi adventure franchise with Mac and Me. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Welcome once again to Failure to Franchise, the show dedicated to some of Hollywood's most infamous mistakes, missteps, and misfires. This is Trev.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. I'm Chris.
Nice. It's like I'm recording with the dulcet tones of Brian Cox.
Oh my God.
You know that's him, right?
What?
Brian Cox, Succession's own Brian Cox, does like the McDonald's jingle in the commercials now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it's I know like Justin Timberlake did it for a while.
Yeah, it was just I believe.
And now we don't like Justin Timberlake.
No, we don't acknowledge that because Justin
like
Timberlake
him.
is the most hated man in the world.
But Brian Cox, seriously.
Yeah, Brian Cox. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So you can like hear that and just think it's like ba-da-ba-ba-ba, I'm loving it. Fuck you. Like that's kind of how I just always hear it in my head.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Cool.
Well, Chris, we survived our New Year's punishment party. Unlike the Punisher's many villains, we survived, It is now February. And you know what? This is a great time, Chris. I don't do this enough, but I want to tell you, I love you, man.
Oh, thank you. You know I love you too. It's good.
Yeah. But as a friend, of course.
Oh well, now I feel bad.
But that's perfect because we are since it's February and since we wanted to celebrate love, but of the friendship kind, we are starting a new theme month, and that is FRIENDruary.
Yes, FRIENDruary.
FRIENDruary, yes. And that is 2 movies celebrating the power of friendship. You know, the magic of friendship, and especially we should say 2 family films celebrating friendship, because adults don't care about friends, only kids do. No. You start to have less and less friends as you get older because they all die and move away, and you become a bitter old man yourself. It's happening to all of us. Yeah. But when you're a kid, you love your friends, and maybe because you're stupid, right? And it's when you're a kid, you're stupid enough to also get into dumb kids movies. So it's perfect that today we are looking at, I'd say, something of a classic of friend kid cinema, at least a cult classic.
Definitely.
And that is 1988's Mac and Me. Chris, why don't you tell us about it?
For sure. It is directed by Stuart Raffil. He directed Tammy and the T-Rex, a movie
one of my favorites.
That was a movie I saw as a child. I actually rented, my mom rented me that movie. And
have you gone back and watched the uncut version though? The recent re-release of it?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay, but, are you aware of that?
I am. I think that Red Letter Media did something about it, right?
Because it's it turned out that it was actually meant to be a much gorier film, and that's been released. Now I have the Blu-ray in case you're wondering.
Of course you do.
Of course you do.
But of course I watched a movie with a T-Rex. So
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well,
and Paul Walker.
And Denise Richards.
Yeah, I'll never forget the way I felt as I don't know how old I was, but maybe 6 when we rented this movie for me, and watching it basically in my basement of my old childhood home. Me and my brother would watch movies on this old Zenith TV, right? And we watched that movie, and at the very end, remember Denise Richards does a striptease for Paul Walker's brain.
I remember everything about this movie. Yes.
yes, of course you do. And I felt odd. That's what I'd say.
You were like, whatever, get back to the dinosaur.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, Stuart Raffil.
It's Stuart Raffil, by the way. I'm pretty sure.
Raffil?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think. I mean, I could be wrong. So
that's fine.
Why did I correct you? Who knows?
Like he won the lottery, Stuart Raffil directed Tammy and the T-Rex. He also wrote this film. He wrote Passenger 57 as well with oh my god, Wesley Snipes.
Yeah.
And he co-wrote Mac and Me with Steve. Another name? Are we going to pronounce this right? Steve Feek?
I hope we pronounce this one right.
Yeah, Steve Fuck. I have no idea. No. But he wrote Poltergeist 3 and episodes of the Dark Shadows TV show. Mm-hmm. I know you were like, wow, I totally remember that.
Well, I do remember. What was it? The original Dark Shadows? Because there was a '90s Dark Shadows attempted reboot, which I watched a little bit of. But I'm guessing you're talking about the original, right?
Yeah, no, I think I'm talking about the original.
Yeah, I have actually seen some of it because they showed reruns on the Sci-Fi Channel when I was young.
Again, of course you have.
Of course, yeah. It's about vampires. What do you want from me? I'm powerless against it.
Yes.
Yeah, and then as far as his other writing credit there, refresh my memory. The Poltergeist 3, also a better movie than people give it credit for, I think. Okay. I actually like the entire Poltergeist trilogy. I'll say it.
Okay, the budget.
Do you like how I acted like that's some controversial hot take? Nobody cares. You know what? I'm putting my foot down in this episode. I like all 3 Poltergeist movies. Come at me, bros.
Wow. Yeah. No, I'm sure we'll get the Geist heads.
We're gonna get mail. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Mac and Me. This movie has made us crazy, by the way. Yes. We are already off the rails. So, sorry. I mean, it's very fitting, but anyway.
Yeah.
The budget of Mac and Me is $13 million. Worldwide, it made $6.4 million, and it was pulled out of theaters after 2 weeks. So, you're wondering why we even know about this movie, but as Trev talked about in the intro to this that you heard, this is very much in the cultural zeitgeist because of one Paul Rudd and Conan O'Brien. So, that's why I know about this movie. I've been seeing the same clip of the kid going off the cliff with his wheelchair for 20 years.
I think there was already a small, like in like my kind of circles, like bad movie circles, this was already starting to develop a little bit of like a cult following even before that. But you can't deny that the Paul Rudd ongoing joke on Conan really, I mean, that's why the mainstream knows this movie now, even if most of them have probably only ever seen that one scene. But like, still, that it's like it's filtered into the, as you said, it's filtered into the public consciousness because of Paul Rudd, a man who has nothing to do with the movie. Apparently, was just a fan.
Yeah. The other name I do want to mention, though, is producer R.J. Lewis. We're going to talk about him quite a bit here. He was coming off an amazing bunch of hits with the Karate Kid and then the sequel. He was part of the whole franchise there. He went on to produce Vegas Vacation, Soldier, the Ocean's 11 remake with George Clooney. So R.J. Lewis is actually quite a... would you call him a big time director? Like he's got some. Well, hits
I'd call him maybe a producer, not a director.
What did I say? Director.
Director, yeah.
Okay. He directed this movie to be in league with a lot of advertising campaigns.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want me to redo that?
No. I think we should leave that and just
Okay.
I think it's fun that this episode will be crazy. I think that we should just keep that like.
Okay, great. I will. Yeah. So, Trev, again, you are the guy that knows it all when it comes to these types of movies, and as you've said, this is a wild one. Yeah. When did you originally see Mac and Me? Because this was my first feature-length viewing.
Oh, really? Yeah, I'd have to rack my brains for that. I don't think I saw it upon initial release. I mean, I'm not talking about, obviously I didn't see the 2 weeks it was in theaters.
Yeah.
But even like shortly after that, I don't think I saw it on video or whatever. This is something I did come around to later. By the time I saw it, I was seeing it because I'd heard it was bad, But the thing but the reason I brought up that I think it already had a cult following before the Paul Rudd thing is because I honestly can't remember if that was a thing by the time I saw it, and I don't think so. I think I saw it before. If not before that started, then before I was aware that Paul Rudd was consistently doing that, because I think it took a couple times before people started to get that was becoming a joke, and an ongoing joke in particular. But I'm pretty sure I probably saw this sometime in the early 90s, mid 90s, when by that point it had already started to establish that reputation as, oh, you like bad movies, you need to see Mac and Me. So fortunately, this is one where I don't have a long story to tell you because I can't remember exactly. But yeah, and then clearly...
How crazy it would have been, though, if I asked you that question and you're like, yeah, I had Mac posters, I had lunch boxes.
Well, funny you ask, Chris. I have my ticket stub right here.
I'll post it to our socials at F2FR.
No, this one I have like less familiarity with that, but I definitely remember especially as the Paul Rudd joke grew and grew, being more aware of it and kind of having it, watching it on other like shitty movie nights with friends. And then I should say too, just to get this out of the way so I don't forget to say later, in even like recent years, just a few years ago, it was an episode of the 12th season of Mystery Science Theater 3000 as well, which is my favorite show of all time, and they ended up doing this as well in their Gauntlet season on Netflix. So then I revisited that was like an edited down version, but and in fact, you know what, I was gonna cheat and watch that version for this recording since I hadn't watched this movie in a while. But my fiance stepped in, who likes to watch movies with me, and said, no, we have to watch the full version. And at first I was a little dismayed by that, but actually, in retrospect, I'm kind of glad because I forgot that the MST one kind of cuts out like 20 minutes of the movie to fit their runtime. So, yeah.
Okay. So, let's talk a little bit about how this movie even happened.
Because that might be more interesting than the movie.
Yes,
one of those cases.
I agree. So like R.J. Lewis, again, he famed producer. He worked alongside a lot of advertising campaigns in his day. He had actually worked with McDonald's there, with their Ronald McDonald charities back in the day. And at this time, there was a little movie. I don't know if you've seen this movie, Trev, but it starred a little alien with an acronym for a name. It was called... Yes, the Will Ferrell alien movie.
Alf. A-L-F.
Oh, Alf.
There's your life form, man. Come on.
That is your Michigan accent. That is.
Sorry, you might know him more as Gordon Shumway from Melmac. Sorry.
Oh my goodness. Alf. No, anyways, E.T. was gigantic right now. It was like.
Yeah, I mean. E.T. is what, 82?
Yeah.
I agree it's still pretty big by 88, but I will say, I mean, maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. They might have been a little slow on the uptake on this one.
Well, I guess what I mean is that E.T. was actually made for $3 million less than Mac and Me. And it went on to make like $700 million. Mm-hmm. So, like, what I mean is, like, it was always it was cemented in the cultural zeitgeist. You know,
now I have a real hot take for you, Chris, and I think it's one you were already aware of. But E.T., I'm not a huge fan. I think it's all right. Not one of my favorite Spielberg movies by any means. And
I tend to agree. My mother loves E.T. When that DVD came out, remember when they changed him to like CGI? All that controversy. But when that DVD came out, my mom like raced out to the local whatever the hell and picked it up. It's like one of her absolute favorite movies. So she loves it. I think it's good.
Yeah, you know, like I think it's good. It's fine. Yeah,
I think it's good. It's obviously very personal to Steven Spielberg. He definitely made that movie for himself, I would say, and that is totally cool. That's totally
I've always felt like maybe I would like it more and like be as connected to it as others are if I could get over the fact that E.T. himself looks like a shriveled ball sack. And I don't particularly find him very cute. Now keep that in mind for later as we talk about Mac and Me. But yeah, it's a problem I have with E.T. So let's imagine how I feel about this one. But anyways,
one of my best friends, speaking of FRIENDruary, his wife is actually petrified of E.T.
I get it, man.
If she sees a picture of him, like she might actually start crying. It's like one of those, things she needs to talk to a shrink about. But it is something that I've known about her for 15 years. Is like, do not show her a picture. Don't give her a stuffy. Don't even joke about it. She just really, really is terrified by the look of E.T.
Yeah. Now that all said, the E.T. ride at Universal Studios,
awesome, yes. So good.
Love when he says your name at the end. Goodbye,
so cool.
Trevor, Chris.
and everybody.
My dad used to always give like a fake name just to see, just to hear him say it.
Goodbye, fuckface. The E.T. ride was awesome. Anyways, E.T. cultural zeitgeist right now. Yeah. And R.J. Lewis has this thought. We need to make another E.T. for this next generation. Like you said, it's like, 6 years later or something like that? So some more crop of toddlers into something else. And again, he has that background with McDonald's. So he looks at this as an opportunity to collaborate with corporations. Now, Trev, we've talked about this kind of thing in the past where, producers have their grubby hands in things and there's product placement here and this movie got this tax credit over here and this only got greenlit because this corporate guy knew this other guy. It happens all the time. But this one from the start, like from the inception of it, was, hey, let's make E.T. again and make sure that McDonald's pays for it.
Pretty much, yes.
And it's so funny because they're still to this day, R.J. Lewis denies that McDonald's paid for anything of this. But in the research, Lewis met with Jim Williams, the president and CEO of Golden State Foods. Now, Golden State Foods is like the main distributor and supplier to McDonald's.
Yes. Yeah. And he's really like skating by on a technicality, to say, oh, no, this is not McDonald's. It's just the distributor that, finances McDonald's. Like, oh, okay, that makes sense,
And he spent 3 years bargaining to make this movie happen, okay? And this was kind of this partnership between, McDonald's and Coca-Cola as well, was kind of the inception for all of those Happy Meals with Disney that we saw for 20 years. And now you don't see it that much, but because of this deal, Disney started to sniff it out, and then they swooped in and signed like an exclusivity deal with McDonald's that they could put their toys in all their Happy Meals. So this movie is incepted from, do I want to say cynical right now?
Yes.
I do. Okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah, this movie is a giant McDonald's commercial. Like there's just no way around it, to the point of even featuring Ronald McDonald and
as himself.
Like has him billed as himself. That poor actor, the guy who played Ronald McDonald for like years apparently, and he doesn't even get to be like, he doesn't get to have his name in the credits.
I know.
And that was even like McDonald at first. McDonald said they did not want Ronald McDonald to be in the movie, and R.J. Lewis just went ahead and did it anyways. It's just like, nope, too bad, he's in it. And even like as maybe we'll hear in a moment, Ronald McDonald even introduced the theatrical trailer for this movie. So yeah, this was definitely very cynical. But as you said, you can call it cynical, which we will, but it does give this movie an interesting place in film history, even beyond the Paul Rudd thing, because we would have got there anyways. As you said, this, Hollywood was clearly chugging along to this point. Yeah. But this movie is a very crucial step in the complete consolidation of like fast food tie-ins and movies, because this is like kind of the first stepping stone of that. And as you said, Disney seeing this and going, McDonald's is partnering up with a shitty movie. What if we like let them work with us on our good movies? How big could this be?
And then they need a director, right? So they reach out to Stuart Raffle, who was recommended by James Brolin, of all people. And
because at this point he was like a pretty, if you look at his filmography before this, nothing like mind-blowing, but fairly respectable. With a movie like he directed The Philadelphia Experiment in 1984, which is a fairly well-regarded sci-fi movie, and he'd just done Ice Pirates, which okay, but he meant like movies like High Risk, which is why James Brolin recommended him, and stuff like Disney Channel, like Disney Studio movies and stuff like Napoleon Samantha with Michael Douglas and Jodie Foster. He was making real movies before this point.
That's funny. what a caveat.
Hey, I like The Philadelphia Experiment. That's all I'm saying.
That's just funny. Hey, Stuart Raffle, you've made real movies, right? Yeah. You're hired.
Come make a fake movie for us.
No, I mean, basically.
Yeah.
But he was funny because he was hired out of the blue. He has a quote here. I was hired out of the blue, and the producer asked me to come down to the office. So I did, and he had a whole crew there, a whole crew on the payroll. It was amazing. He had the transportation captain, the camera department head, the AD, the production manager. He had everybody already hired, and I said, well, what's the script? And he said, we don't have a script. I don't like the script. You have to write the script. You're going to have to write it quickly, so prep the movie and write the script on the weekends. And Stuart Raffle had said that, he was writing it in his hotel room, like right before cameras rolled, probably all the way through it, honestly.
Yeah. And, that's like, on one regard, you hear that and you go, wow, that's kind of impressive or whatever. But he did have E.T. to use as the easy template. And this is a, let's not, like, we've already gotten to it, but this is pretty much an E.T. clone. I think it's very funny that they say they try to distinguish the film from E.T., but they say, we tried to have Mac be a member of the family and have powers and skills. Yeah, that sounds like E.T. What are you talking about? That's exactly the same thing.
They also said that there'd be no, like, egregious product placement.
Yeah. You watch the movie, folks, and you decide.
My favorite is that Lewis called this character Mac, stands for mysterious alien creature, and he said, any relation to McDonald's and Big Mac are purely coincidental. I promise. As he conned some handicapped child into the role, Well, I mean, that's one thing too, right? This movie wanted to cast a kid with a disability, and they got this actor who had actual spina bifida, and that also seemed a little cynical too, because in the research of this film and them talking about, like, Stuart and Lewis talking about things that they should have got props for with the movie, they kept coming back to, hey, like, we cast a fucking disabled kid. Hey, give us props, man. High five us all around. And I'm like, well, now you're literally using him as a prop. So,
yeah, it was I don't know. The way they talk about it definitely seems more cynical than like I'd say the movie itself treats that. But
for sure, I agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree with that. And really, Trev, I mean, that's pretty much it. There's no real controversy in the making. There's no fights, there's no battles, there's no nothing. This was built as a big commercial, so I mean, had no pushback, nothing like that. I mean,
we could sit here and talk about it like our own personal thoughts of McDonald's. I mean, are you a McDonald's guy, Chris?
I enjoy a junior chicken from here to there. Like, it's fine.
Okay, yeah.
You don't like McDonald's?
I certainly eat it less now than I did when I was younger. But man, when I was younger, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're getting old.
Yes.
Watch the
It's
old
now,
waistline.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You've obviously seen like Super Size Me, the Maurice Spurlock movie. What'd you think of that one?
I think it's a very entertaining movie, but I think I think the point of it is kind of lost in the the fact of him doing it the way he did it. Of course, anything's going to be bad for you if you eat it to that extreme,
Totally.
But yeah, it's an entertaining movie, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, that's
didn't stop me from occasionally polishing a McDonald's hamburger. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like that was. I don't think I ever walked when I saw. I think I only saw it once. But when I did see it, I was like, "Let's get some."
Yeah. Hungry for fries now.
Yeah, that in itself was kind of a commercial for McDonald's in a weird way.
Well, speaking of commercials for McDonald's, let's just finally get to it.
Yeah.
Hi, kids. It's me, Ronald McDonald, and I'm on the set of my very first motion picture ever. It's a movie called Mac and Me, and it stars my little friend from outer space here. His name is Mac, and I want to introduce you to him. Mac? Anybody seen Mac? Where'd he go?
Paging Ronald McDonald.
Well, listen, I've got to go now.
You're wanted in makeup.
Makeup? Me?
They were an average alien family living on their own planet. And we were an average family living on ours.
He took my Coke, Mom. Come on, you guys.
I don't have it. I didn't take it.
I knew it.
Accidents happen, and like us, they found themselves in a strange new neighborhood.
I like it.
Me too.
Shh. We're communing with the Earth spirits.
Welcome to California, bud.
Alert, we have a malfunction.
Their lives were in danger.
That y'all, Larry, get away from it.
We've got a problem here.
They had to escape. When the smoke cleared, their family was separated. Somehow, one of the aliens was hiding in our house. The government wanted to capture him.
It's here.
Everyone was after him. And my brother, Eric, wants to make friends.
We got him!
Turn it off!
You sucked this living thing into a vacuum cleaner?
Yeah, and then we blew him out again.
Now Eric is risking not only his life, but my life
Give me the gun. Step back!
to save them.
This is the police.
There he is!
I told you they don't understand.
It's about more than friendship. It's about adventure. Mac and Me.
This unbelievably shameless ripoff goes as follows. A mysterious alien creature, aka Mac, definitely not E.T. the extraterrestrial, escapes from nefarious NASA agents and is then befriended by a wheelchair-bound boy named Eric, definitely not named Elliot. There's also a single mom, a big brother, and a young girl, who's definitely not Gertie, in the mix. There's some Skittles instead of Reese's Pieces, and Mac can heal electronics instead of healing living things. Mac, also gets sick at some point. Oh, and not Elliot and not E.T. outrun the feds by racing down the street on wheels. Anyways, Mac's quest to reunite with his family has been fully financed by the Coca-Cola Company and McDonald's Corporation.
Not too shabby.
Yeah, thanks.
Chris, I'm gonna let you. This is your first time watch. I'm gonna let you go first on this one. I'm very curious to hear what you thought of Mac and Me after years of seeing the one clip. Of course, later I want to hear what you thought, like when that clip actually came up in the movie. Like, how was it, like jarring or exciting? But let's just start with your general thoughts.
I mean, this is just a cynical cash grab. Like, this movie is probably the most egregious form of product placement I think I've ever seen. It's a feature-length commercial for, again, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Skittles, Sears,
Do you think Adam Sandler watched this movie and was like taking notes when he was younger? This is what movie making is.
I think a lot of people took notes from this.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, this movie it's just like objectively probably like the worst thing we've covered. And I think it's just because it comes from such a shitty corporate place. Can you blame the actors? No, you can't blame a bunch of children, some of which who are fine. And I think Jade Caligari, who plays Eric, I think he's actually fine. Like, I mean,
surprisingly solid for not being an actor at all, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. So he's fine, but I think this movie is almost like a masterpiece in Miss, a masterpiece, as I will say. The movie opens up and it gives you the most fucking horrifying alien design I've ever seen.
And it gives it to you 4 times, a whole family of them.
Oh my god, it gives you way too many times. And they look like if the E.T. puppet was like squished in the face and then melted in the sun, right? And they also kind of look like humans that were skinned. I was like, oh man, is this martyrs?
The thing that really bothers me is the mouth, like how they all just have
disgusting.
that little like suck hole. Yeah,
and it's funny because the alien designers, Ruben Aquino and Christopher Swift, Ruben Aquino went on to make nothing before or after this, so good. But Christopher Swift must have thought this was a hustle. He must have been like, holy shit, I can't believe this was all approved, because that guy went on to work for Stan Winston, and he did a lot of work. Funnily enough, he did a lot of work for Spielberg and James Cameron. So, like, he's actually quite talented. So he must have been like, oh my god, we're getting away with fucking murder here. This movie's shameless, even in the score. You know, this is a kind of a score horror, but they hire...
Speaking of talented people who actually worked on this movie.
Yeah, they hire one of the greats, Alan Silvestri, who is kind of a John Williams replacement. Like, just in... I think score horrors know that. You know, like, people love an Alan Silvestri score. He's a Spielberg guy. You know, he's a Zemeckis guy. But he's like the guy you get if you can't get John Williams sometimes, you know? And, you know, he works in motifs and old school Hollywood triumph, just like Williams. So this movie doesn't deserve him. And,
it's funny, there are definitely points in this movie where you can really hear, though, like the Back to the Future theme.
Oh, yes. Well, this one came out, how much after Back to the Future?
3 years. Yeah.
3 years, right. So this was in the mix of making 2 and 3, I guess, right?
This is in this same year he also did Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Which one do you think he was more proud of?
Yeah, exactly. To wrap up my thoughts, is there a horror edit of this movie?
Well, yeah, it's called Mac and Me. We just watched it.
Okay, that was good. But we'll get into specifics later. But I feel like if you rescored this movie with horror music, it would be actually even either funnier or more horrifying.
But anyway, Steven Soderbergh, let's get on this. You know.
Yeah. So those are my overall thoughts. But Trev, I'll throw it to you. As you have now seen this movie more than once, which is fucking psychotic.
Times,
It's psychotic.
Yeah, well, and I'm not unaware it's psychotic, but that's the thing. Like, yes, this movie is obviously a huge cynical piece of shit.
Yeah.
Now that said, for reasons that I would think you would expect coming from me, it's not an unfun movie to watch.
Sure,
you know,
of course.
It has its charms when you are watching it, especially just going into it knowing it's going to be bad and accepting that and being like, let's just have a good time with the insanity of this movie. Because this is the kind of movie. It's not boring bad. I'll give it that.
Sure.
This is the kind of movie that to me is bafflingly bad in a way that starts to cross over into while I'm genuinely being entertained by this. So that's what I say. Like, I agree with you. Like, it's this on a pure objective level, one of the worst movies we've watched.
Yeah.
But I have fun watching this movie, and there's a reason it's a great Mystery Science Theater episode. There's a reason why it's a very funny joke to use over and over for Paul Rudd on Conan. It's a movie that, in something as simple as aping E.T., right? You have the template, you have all the pieces, and we've seen how it can be done well. Like, you and I both said it's not a favorite movie of ours, but we both acknowledge it's a good movie. We can watch E.T. and go like, oh, that's a real talented director making a very simple story and making it well. And honestly, a movie like Mac and Me shows how talented Spielberg is.
Oh, for sure.
Because you take the same template and you go, whoa, that's what happens when someone that's not Spielberg makes this movie and makes like every decision wrong. And like you said, not the cast's fault. maybe the alien designer's fault a little bit, and maybe just the producer's fault for being so cynical to make a feature-length McDonald's commercial. But yeah, it's a terrible movie that I kind of ironically enjoy.
Sure.
But even there, I will say, like, even there, not one of my like favorite bad movies of all time or anything. It's just one that every once in a while it's fun to revisit and go like, oh yeah, that's right, this movie sucks. But
I guess
there's some laughs to be had.
I guess that's where I kind of wanted to take the conversation a little bit is I get that, and I know you, right? Like I know you, some would say intimately. But it's like I understand that this movie has that cult following, and there is some ironic fun to be had. But it is interesting that this movie still broke through. You know what I mean? Like, it's still not as fun as maybe I thought it would be, especially to have that Paul Rudd gag last 20 years. I don't know what I expected. Like, maybe I thought that this was going to be some... holy shit, like I wish I watched this in a packed theater of 30 people. Like I don't even know if I would want to do that. I feel like I'd maybe be irritated. You know what I mean?
But see, that's where I was about to say that might be the key, because one thing about the way we watch these movies is, you and I tend to watch these in a little bit of a vacuum.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you watch this one by yourself. That's something that like probably would not.
There is absolutely no way that my girlfriend would watch this movie.
See, now I got to watch this with my fiance when this was her first time watching it, and like it is fun to watch this with someone for their first time and watch them react to it. And she was having a ball watching this because of how insane it is,
Sure.
And that's to be fun. And I think this is the kind of movie that I do believe you say you're not sure, but I think this movie would be really fun to watch with an audience,
right?
Because there are moments that you can see where the audience would like lose their minds, and so I think that's like actually there are bad movies that I can enjoy just sitting by myself. My friends do make fun of me for that sometimes, that I'll sit there and watch bad movies by myself.
I'm
but
one
obviously the preferred way to watch bad movies is with a group,
sure,
and with some beers and some pizza and just go in ready to make fun of it. And that's why that's why MST works, because like even if you're by yourself, it's kind of like you're watching with friends, because you're just getting to see them make fun of the movie. So yeah, I think that's key. I think sitting down to watch this by yourself for a podcast where it's going to be talking about how it's a failure and knowing how cynical the movie is from already doing the background research. You're putting yourself into the mindset of being like, this is going to be a huge piece of shit, which it is, but you're also almost like not allowing yourself to have the potential fun that you could have with it.
For sure. And like I almost, because of what we talk about here, I have to come at it with somewhat of a critical eye,
right?
As like, and like I'm not a professional by any means, but like I have to sound somewhat wise.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird movie because, like, obviously, critically, what else is there to say other than, guess what, folks, it's bad. We all know it's like, yes, it's a poorly made film with a terrible script, a rushed, ripoff with cynical motivations. That's all obvious. The question is, what you were just alluding to is, and what I guess we can investigate a little bit is, what is the potential inkling of magic that makes it at least kind of a fun watch for people? And I think it's only that it's just so insane at points. That's where the I mean, like in the very first minutes, like you said, first of all, we start with the bizarre sequences on their home planet. But once like Mac comes to Earth, like right off the bat, this is a movie that's supposed to be for kids, and you're talking about, like, I made the joke about this being a horror film already, but this movie is like pure nightmare fuel pretty quickly. In his first arrival to Earth, we see Mac almost immediately electrocuted by an electric fence, which stretches him out, like it makes him like stretch out, and then he goes flying into the highway and is hit by a car and smashed against the windshield and flattened, and they call him like an omelet with eyes. And I'm just watching this thinking like, this is for kids, right?
Yeah.
Like I get that like E.T. had some moments of like where E.T.'s dying and it's very sad, but this movie is trying to like traumatize the kids who are watching.
Well, it's even like Mac's parents are like smashing through windows, and they're fucking horrifying. Like the design, I cannot say it enough that the design is atrocious. Like it is.
Chris, you mentioned Martyrs. You mentioned Martyrs earlier. Yeah. I've seen Martyrs. I've seen Hereditary. I've seen Salo. Yeah. I mean, so I've seen so many of cinema's great Cannibal Holocaust. So many like intense movies. I don't know that I've ever seen anything as chilling and haunting as the sequence where they enter that mine and find Mac's family dead on the ground.
Oh my god, I know. It's fucking bizarre, and it's like you're saying like Mac gets stretched out and like splatted on a windshield. Like, is he made of silly putty? Like, I don't really get it. It's like he's a cartoon character in live action, but also the movie is like, it doesn't know what it is, which makes sense because they're writing it on weekends. You know what I mean? Not only are they aping one of the most successful films of all time only a few years later, but they still are throwing in baffling things like Max stalking Eric in his house and playing with deadly power tools and
I was going to bring that up because bizarre. Those in the know, like you and I, pure film nerds, we all know that E.T. started life as a horror movie. Like, it was originally, meant to be like Steven Spielberg's original conception was a horror film, and over time it turned into a family film. And this movie seems to want to, kind of ride the middle ground there a little bit. Mm-hmm. And the first half, as you're alluding to, Mac is like a little piece of shit. It's like little monsters terrorizing the family essentially, and to no end and to no reason. And the movie just suddenly decides to have him change on a dime and suddenly start being more friendly, And I think it's also funny that in those initial moments when, he said, he's drilling holes in the wall and cutting a hole in the door, smashing stuff, rearranging all the furniture, bringing trees inside the house. Mm-hmm. I think it's very funny that the mom thinks that Eric did that all, considering he is in a wheelchair. And it's just so again, just bizarre script decisions that make no sense. So that's where, again, if you can get into the vibe of it, it starts to be funny. But then if you take a moment and think of it critically, you're like, what were the people making this thinking?
Well, it's even it's shot really strange too, because, and that's why I was like, is there a re-edit or a re-scoring of these sequences with horror-esque music or vibes? Because, Mac uses all these deadly power tools, and then Eric is telling his mom, it's not me, it's the little alien, it's the little alien. And then nobody's believing him. So it's kind of like Eric is descending into madness. He leaves the house. He goes towards a cliff. You're like, oh my God, is he gonna fucking kill himself? It's such a strange framing of the film. And I only know that he's gonna go off the cliff because of Paul Rudd. Mm-hmm. But back in the day, it's kind of a horrifying scene, because right after that, when he's so upset, he's crying, nobody's believing him, he stops to smell the flowers, loses control of his goddamn wheelchair, which the actor did for real, which is insane that they let him do that. Mm-hmm. It just shows you that movies were made differently in the 80s. Twilight Zone.
Yeah, there are sequences in this too where they send him we were talking about the high speed chase, where they send him into the road, he's coming so close to cars, and I don't know, I don't know. Obviously, I'm hoping that was a stunt double or even a dummy, but some of those scenes, I was literally oh my God, the anxiety you feel, and that's the thing. That's the double edged sword of this decision to have. Jade Caligari, and this is Eric Cruz, and have the main character be a kid in a wheelchair, because it was probably, again, a cynical decision to instantly garner sympathy for the character, which I get. Movies have done that for a long time. But it also means, when you are making a movie like this that is constantly placing him in danger, it does, start to be almost, too scary and too disturbing to have fun with it. It's hard to have fun when the movie is putting this kid through what it's putting him through.
Well, it's even this. Then they finally capture Mac with a vacuum, right? And this vacuum's going crazy. These child's bodies are fucking flailing around and slamming against the walls and the ceiling. You're spinning around. It becomes a friggin' horror movie.
Yeah. And Sam Raimi's Mac and Me.
You know what? That's perfect, actually. You're so right. It becomes that Evil Dead vibe, which, again, I guess would be fun. And I think just because I have the knowledge that this movie is just such a crapshoot, that yes, it is fun in that way, but I want to put my brain into 1988, watching this movie. No wonder it wasn't hitting, because it's too scary, I think, or it's too off-putting. I kept writing down about just the alien family, that they were just really uncomfortable. Watching them walk and
the dad in particular.
Oh my God, it's so off-putting and strange and uncomfortable. It's like something out of, Pan's Labyrinth, right? It's the Pale Man, but way worse in every way. It's as if, somebody was trying to be Doug Jones before Doug Jones, and it's just
Pale Man and Me. That'd be a great kids movie.
There, love that actually. At the end, he just eats them. But it's almost too weird to watch it again by myself.
Yeah. Well, and when you say too rare, that's perfect because it does feel like, and I'm sure I'm not the first person to say this, but it feels like a drugged out version of E.T. and definitely like a movie that is probably most enjoyable, while under the influence of certain substances.
Totally.
Like, that's what really unlocks the magic of it. And yeah, like it's interesting because you and I both said that we don't particularly find E.T. to be as cute as others do, but I can see the potential cuteness in E.T. at least that others are responding to.
Yeah.
Whereas Mac Mac's whole family, we just focusing on Mac since he's the titular star.
Sure.
It just shows again how like thin that line is, right? How easy it is to take a design of the sort of E.T. and Mac and just like the smallest little changes make something going from like potentially cute to just outright terrifying and like not cute at all. I can't imagine many kids saw Mac and Me. First of all, obviously I can't imagine many kids saw Mac and Me considering it made no money. But like once you did, how many walked out of the theater going, I want like a Mac doll or I want Mac to be my friend? No way. No way.
They wanted McDonald's.
They were like, I want a therapist. I need to
Yeah, it's even as bad as like when they hide him in a terrifying teddy bear disguise. Like even that is almost worse because they cut out the eyes almost like a fucking serial killer, and his eyes, his beady, like weird, glossy, weird eyes are like shining through this teddy bear that's
Texas
4 feet
Chainsaw
tall.
Massacre. That's what it's called.
Oh,
thank you.
That was very good. You know what? Honestly, follow along at F2F Pod.
Yeah, we're done. Thank you.
That was excellent. Dude, it's terrifying. And then, let's just talk about it now. Like the dance sequence, like the movie stops truly to become a McDonald's advertisement. They go to McDonald's because they're hungry, and they go there and there's already a dance party that's happening outside. And I gotta ask you, because you were alive during the 80s like this.
Yes.
I was just born this year that this movie came out. Was that happening?
Oh yeah, what are you talking about? You didn't go to the breakdancing disco parties at McDonald's all the time? Okay. No, this is where the movie like goes from being just baffling to being flat out insane, and it does legit become a different movie. Yeah. Because for as nuts as it's been up to this point, it's been grounded in its own logic, right? You're like watching it all, and it's like, okay, this is bad, but I get it. It's just a bad E.T. ripoff. And then the moment they pull up to McDonald's, where it's like Eric's little friend, her older sister works at McDonald's.
Not Gertie. Oh yeah.
Not Gertie's older sister works at McDonald's. And like when you first see her in her McDonald's uniform, if you're a sane person, you might think, okay, well that's probably the last thing we'll hear about McDonald's, right? We just saw her in the outfit. I'm sure that's it. But no, they go to McDonald's and it turns into like a long sequence. But the moment they pull up and there's just people out in the parking lot like breakdancing, and this again, there's so like the thing about this movie is it's behind on everything. Like it's aping E.T. too late, but also by this point, like Breakin' and Breakin' 2 were I believe 1984. So it's like this is like too late on the breakdancing craze as well.
Totally.
To the point where this is already kind of a joke. And you get there and it's just like there's a breakdancing party happening in the parking lot, and then for no reason it continues into the McDonald's. I get that there's like a kid's birthday party going on, but it's an insane birthday party because it's like, yeah, there's some kids there, but most of the people there are adults, including an entire football team in uniform and a table of ballerinas who, oddly enough, the table of ballerinas never joined the dance. But anyways, then somebody comes on the loudspeakers and says,
Okay, kids, let's get this dance contest going.
And then everybody gets up and does an obviously pre-choreographed dance that there's like they're not coming up with like on the spot. I mean, it's
like 4 minutes. Listeners,
the movie,
if you haven't seen this,
you said the movie breaks, and that's like the best way to put it. This is like Lynchian and how like suddenly bizarre it becomes because you've entered a different reality. And like I said, the entire movie's been weird, but this is not operating on even the logic of what we've seen previous to this.
Yeah. Again, we're gonna say right now, listeners, maybe don't watch the full movie, but go on YouTube and just search Mac and Me McDonald's dance. Do that. It's 4 minutes, and you will be utterly baffled, bewildered. So much so when I saw it, because I think I had seen clips of it like in the years of YouTube, but it hasn't really. I didn't really focus in on it, right? All those years ago. But when I had watched it, I rarely text Trev while I'm watching the movies for the podcast. And all I could do was send him a GIF of looking bewildered, like during that dance thing. Like, is it fun? I don't even know.
No, it's not.
No, but that's what I mean. It's like even when Mac, in the form of a teddy bear that's 4 feet tall, starts dancing on the counter, and everybody cheering him on, and then he's flying around the room. Another one. Yeah. It's like, where's his powers coming from? And the best part about all of this is that our main character cannot physically participate.
I know. And then I also think it's like, the other thing that's very funny is because the entire sequence is just flat out insane.
Yeah.
And then they're like, the way they try to like justify it in whatever logic the movie still is holding on to, like tenuously, like it's on a cliff, about to fall off. Mm-hmm. Is they're like, when he gets up and starts dancing, they're just like, don't worry, they think he's a toy. What? Everybody thinks this is like a 4 foot tall breakdancing teddy bear toy. It's okay. Like, again, whatever. I guess if anybody was going to try to make that product and sell it, I guess it would have been R.J. Lewis. But the movie that's the turning point of the movie, where I think kind of like everything after that is insane. Like it's been just weird. It's been a weird bad movie up until that point, and it goes wildly off the rails there, and like kind of never recovers really.
The movie sort of becomes pure cacophony. Like, even when all the family is now in a van driving away from McDonald's because they're trying to find, they're trying to get Mac home to his family. They're all just kind of like yelling at each other in the van that I was like, oh my God, fucking make this stop. There's like this weird whistle communication between Mac and his family that is objectively and on a technical level bad. The sound design is horrible. It's actually obnoxious that's how they talk. It's almost too quiet as well. So you're kind of sitting there being like, you're very unclear about what's even happening. Like, do they just whistle? Is that all they do? Like, is it like a bat signal for the Mac robots or the Mac aliens? It's bad.
The only time the movie slows down and kind of calms down is the previously aforementioned terrifying sequence where they find Mac's family like
dead, close
to death in a mine shaft. And I'm not kidding. Like, this is like some of the most horrifying imagery put to film. It is just so disturbing. And of course, don't worry, they magically revived them with 2 cans of Coke. But
the magical elixir, And then listeners, it continues. Okay, now Mac has his family. They're all reunited, and they go to a store to pick up supplies. They go to a grocery store. The aliens walk in the store as well. People are freaking out. They immediately go for their Coca-Cola, of course. People are losing their minds. Cops show up. A gun gets kicked towards the alien family. The dad alien picks up the gun. The police are freaking out. Cops are called. Federal agents are called to the store. And it's like, are they going to shoot them? Like, what's happening? Oh my God. Now they're walking outside of the store. The kids are locked up because they've been arrested now. It's like a it's like a fucking standoff between this aliens and the police. And then our main character rolls up to be like, I have to talk to them. I can solve all this. It's completely insane. And then, listeners, the fucking store and van explode, and then it kills Eric. Eric dies. What the fuck movie is this?
Well, and Chris, and I'm sure you probably know this, but what I want to ask you about is you are responding to the theatrical cut we have now existing.
Yes.
However, it's because you're saying the explosion kills Eric, which just seems odd on its face because you're like, why would being in the vicinity of an explosion kill him?
Yeah.
But it's actually much more bizarre in the original cut, which was only seen in like the Japanese release of the film, but it can be found on YouTube. So, Chris, I want to ask you if you went and watched it. But the truth is, Eric is shot to death in this sequence. When one of the cops tries to like get the gun from Mac's dad, he like falls and his gun goes off and it shoots Eric in the chest. and that was how they originally filmed it. And that's why when you see the movie now and the explosion goes off, you'll notice that the Eric's wheelchair in front of the explosion is like a really weird looking animation.
Yeah.
That's because it was added in after the fact, because originally Eric was already dead by that point from being shot in the chest. And you can watch that version online. And then apparently in like a longer cut, the longer Japanese cut, before they revive him, there is a sequence where like Mac's dad removes the bullet from Eric's chest.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Did
you end up watching that or no?
Oh yes, I did. Yeah. I did. Yeah. It's remarkable. It goes off like a squib, like a RoboCop squib.
Yeah.
Like
it is violent. It is terrifying. It is not something that should be a kid's movie. E.T. like knockoff. It's just like,
no.
What were they thinking?
The actor sells it. I was like, oh, wow, they killed him. they killed this disabled kid. It is insane. And then like the family huddles around this dead child's body, and like this there's a doctor, and the doctor runs up and the doctor's like, he's gone. And then the actors start like freaking out, saying, oh, he's gone, what? And if you notice, the brother is dubbed. He's dubbed wrong. He actually says he's dead, ? And you can still hear the audio, which is hilarious. And they've dubbed on he's gone to make it less horrifying, which is so funny.
But meanwhile, the actors are selling it with like real, dramatic, like pathos.
Oh, for sure. They seem like their co-star was just shot and killed.
Yes.
Like it is unreal. And it's too
when the
too
mom
intense.
comes up, the mom comes up and it's just like, no. This is, what vibe are we aiming for here now?
And it's long. It's like 3 minutes. That's too long to sit with for children, especially. Like I'm a grown ass adult, and I'm watching this, being like, this is too much. It is horrifying. And then it cuts to the fucking flaming explosion that had happened, and the aliens are standing there like demons from hell.
maybe my favorite visual in the movie.
Oh my god,
walking out of the flames,
dude! They're like the fucking T-1000, coming out, and they come up to the kid.
Except the T-1000 wasn't this scary.
100%. They go up to this body of this dead child, and they magically whistle him back to life, but do not fix his legs. So take that, cripples. I could not believe it. They bring this kid back to life, but they do not solve his disability.
Hey man, they got their limits, I guess, or maybe they thought that was like that's a character like strength for him. Did you I wanted to ask you about that too, because crazy. The actor had spina bifida in real life, but the movie never gets into his origin story or anything. But we do know that the family has just recently, they're moving to LA when this movie starts. But first of all, I want to talk about that. And everything we just said, honestly, to me, the most unbelievable thing about this movie is that somehow a single mother is moving her two children to they're moving from Illinois to LA, a really nice house, just for a job at Sears. What kind of paycheck is she getting at that Sears job?
Dude, they paid differently in the 80s, okay?
Okay, I guess. But anyways, we do understand through context clues that they've recently lost their father. And because the movie doesn't get into it, and because this movie is already so nuts, I just kept wondering oh, did the dad die in a car accident that is also the reason the kid's in the wheelchair? That's kind of what I was wondering if we were supposed to impart at all. But
interesting. Or the mom took out a huge health insurance policy and killed the dad. And Jade Caligari, aka Eric, was caught in the crossfire. Maybe he was actually shot in the back.
Yeah, this is this is the second time he's been shot.
Yeah, that's why he's he just shakes it off.
It's like the end of X-Men First Class, basically.
Yeah, he's gonna move a fucking chess piece and he's fine. Oh no, wait, that's Last Stand. Oh my god, I can't remember all these X-Men movies. Okay, it does not stop here, listeners.
You wanted to, as much as you might want it to.
Yeah, at this point you're like, okay, we're done now, but no, it does a little bit of a time jump. And you're in a church, it looks like, and there's it's packed. There's somebody talking at the front. Everybody's arms up, being sworn in for something, and the camera's floating in the cathedral. It's checking out the audience and blah blah blah, and then it pans to the left, and Mac's family is standing there with real person clothes, like suits and dresses and stuff, like that came out of the 1950s. And they're being sworn in as American citizens.
Yes.
Now, at this point, I wish we had a sequel. Because right now I'm thinking, for the sequel, do they open a restaurant? Do they open a dry cleaners? Does Mac join the military? Does he kill Bin Laden? Is that the sequel that I want? What the hell is going on with that ending?
Yeah, somehow they're like more terrifying in clothes.
Yes.
Than they were naked, which is a bizarre thing to say. Oh, by the way, like the product placement continues as Mac is wearing a McKids shirt.
Yes.
Yes, but yeah, and like it's funny, it's like no one in like again, you're right. I don't know why this like U.S. citizenship like ceremony was happening in a church, but it sure seems to be. No one there is like batting an eye at them.
No.
Which again, I guess there's a time jump, but again, like that's like one of those time jumps where you're like, why would that be a time jump where you don't show us the world learning about their existence to the point where like they're just kind of like common knowledge now and everyone's like normal with them? Like that.
Yeah, like
seems
you just cut to like a TV anchor that's like,
show like
found
a montage,
found in L.A.
Hell, give me spinning newspapers. I love a good spinning newspaper, you know? Like
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but you know, just everyone accepts it. And then like this is the point where you could be watching the movie thinking like, okay, well this is a piece of shit, but at least we'd never have to talk about it in Failure to Franchise, right? Because this is just a standalone like bad movie. But no, it in fact does end with a direct sequel tease as they drive off to their further adventures and Mac blows a bubblegum bubble that says we'll be back.
Yeah,
and that was the plan. That was the plan. Orion had planned for this to lead into a sequel that they hope to make shortly after. But guess what, folks? No.
No. This is a misguided piece of shit. You know, like who in their right mind while making the movie, going to work, you know, like the gaffers, you know, you know, like the best boy grip, you know, going to work, being like, well, at least we're going to make 3 of these. Like, you know, like we got job security for the next 7 years.
I mean, as long as we get to Mac in 3, I guess we're good. You know.
Oh, again, man, Trev, on fire today. On fire. Yeah, that's like when Mac like dates a human person and has triplets. half.
Can you imagine if we got to see like a half Mac, half human hybrid?
They look like creatures from The Thing.
Another movie less scary than Mac and Me.
Yes, of course.
With less body horror than Mac and Me. Yeah, and like you'd like the crew and you do feel bad for some of the performers, like you said, because they're like trying. I do think Eric is good. I think Christine Ebersol as the mom is also quite good. Like, you know, she's playing this role the way, you know, it should be played in like a real movie.
Well, she's also been in real movies. She was in Tootsie and like a bunch of stuff.
Oh yeah, she has a great career. She was an SNL cast member in one of like the worst SNL years of all time. Like the 81 season. I want to read you. Hold on, I think I have this. Yeah, Chris, I want to read you the 81 SNL cast. Are you ready for this?
Okay, go.
Okay. Robin Duke, Christine Ebersol, Mary Gross, Tim Kazurinsky, Joe Piscopo, Tony Rosado, Brian Doyle Murray, and doing a lot of heavy lifting, Eddie Murphy.
I wonder who else went on to bigger, better things. Wow,
now I like some of those performers, but man, that's a shaky year. This is of course during the wild like non-Lorne Michaels years.
Right.
This is when This is actually the year that Dick Ebersol took over. No relation. People always think like, oh, Dick Ebersol took over and hired like his wife or sister. Nope, Christine Ebersol had no relation. Just a coincidence. But,
weird.
But yeah,
weird.
no,
just like Mac and Big Macs.
Yeah, just like Mac and isn't related to Al for ET. But no, I like Christine Ebersol in general. She's just one of those performers that was like you said, in a lot of stuff, even as recently as like Wolf of Wall Street and like Licorice Pizza. And yeah, so like there's like performers in this that are trying to like, you know, they thought they were in a real movie. I don't know, but they're being let down by the movie's cynical motivations and just a complete piece of shit script. And again, it's like, to me, it's just. I mean, I'm glad the movie's bad so I can have fun with it. Because, like, if it was just, like, a lame... You know, if it was just another generic AT knockoff, of which there were many in the 80s, and most of them do not have the enduring legacy this one does, you know, it would be, like, less fun to watch. But it is strange to me that when you have the template already there, that you could still mess it up this bad. You know? Like, that's what makes this movie fascinating.
And especially with the money behind it. Like, this movie, like I said, was made for more money than E.T., they decided to spend more on this, a ripoff of a movie that made $700 million. And this one obviously had a lot of publicity. It had backing. It had promotional backing. It had something behind the movie. And to be such a catastrophic junk pile, I think that kind of proves that, sometimes audiences, they do know when they're being spoon-fed shit. Yeah. Like they know, even at a young age, even as like being kids, like they know when they're being like, I don't know about this thing. But this does break through in that cult way. That's why it is a fascinating view. It's something wild to witness, Like you said, there's so many ripoffs that were happening in the 80s and early 90s for these big movies. Like we're big fans of Red Letter Media, and they do a whole thing when they watch old movies, and you can tell that they're all just ripoffs of other ripoffs of other ripoffs, right? A copy and a copy and a copy. And this one had something special to break through in it. I mean, it's got to be the movie breaking with the dance sequence, It's got to be the absolute horrific character design of the aliens. It has to be a handicapped child getting exploded. Like it's got pieces to be memorable junk food, funnily enough.
Maybe it's the appearance of Hollywood's favorite drunk George Buck Flower as the security guard in the grocery store. That was a great moment for me. If you watch any movie in like the 80s or early 90s and there was a drunk in it, 9 times out of 10 it was George Buck Flower.
That's funny.
If you have eagle eyes, you can spot Jennifer Aniston as a background extra during the McDonald's dance sequence. But
yes. Did you go back and look?
I only looked online to like Google image search it and see like where people had already circled her. Like
yes.
in the moment, it's like pretty much impossible if you don't know who you're looking for.
Yeah, it's like half of the side of her profile with her old nose. So it's hard to see it, and it's still never truly confirmed. Like I don't think Jennifer Aniston has ever said yes that she was in that movie.
Surprising that she wouldn't.
Speaking of the Paul Rudd connection,
she won't even talk about Leprechaun. People think she's going to talk about Mac and Me. Come on.
Oh yeah, exactly. Did you see that Tina Kasperi, that the one that plays the worker? She's like a fitness chick now. I sent you a link. Yeah. Mm-hmm. She looks great.
Looking good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she looked good in this movie. Hopefully. Well, hold on.
Wonder what Mac's looking like now.
Speaking of melted down in the sun. Yeah. No, that's
just looks like he's actually Joe Rogan.
Mac's puppet is one that they don't keep in archives. You know how like everything that Hollywood makes is like in some warehouse.
Yeah, no.
Mac
the moment these box office receipts came in, this all went into a bonfire. Yeah,
Mac was like the Atari game. They found like a hole in the desert and they put them all
like
there.
Sometimes you see those like pictures online of like where people find like what the turtle suits look like now, and they're terrifying because they've like rotted and like the teeth are like more exposed. Like that's like, imagine going into some warehouse and finding like the Max family like puppets and like costumes. Like how? Well, I guess you don't have to imagine it because that scene's actually in the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
The mine sequence, like
they actually that's when they put the costumes on and they got the puppets was after all those years. That's what it looks like. So
that's why Alan Silvestri used the Back to the Future music in this, because they time traveled and just filmed that scene ahead of time. Yeah,
100%. And then the little disabled kid dated his mom. Weird times, wild times in the mid to late 80s. We've talked about this, especially listeners. If you haven't, there was a theme we did last year or last year? I don't know anymore. But we did like a fall back to the 80s where we did a whole run of 80s films and talked how much of a wild cocaine fueled.
2 years ago now, buddy. Last year we did the DC PU during the fall.
So. Oh my God. So there you go. So yeah. Check your podcast app.
Time is a flat circle, my friend.
The ultimate villain cannot be killed.
No, like the 80s were nuts, and in particular, like this movie just proves it. And I don't know how many of these you've gone back and like even dealt with, Chris, but the 80s were the wildest time for family movies in particular and kids movies. Like just like the mountains of cocaine that were flowing in Hollywood that fed directly into the fingers, first the noses all the way down to the fingers of the typists and writers writing these kids films in the 80s were substantial. That's all I'm saying, because it was just a bizarre time for kids movies.
Yeah.
Because at some point, like this is a movie that, like, again, not to harp on it, but this is a movie where they said like, man, people really responded to the the stirring emotionality of E.T., and we want to like really capture that vibe. What should we do? Let's have our movie end with a wheelchair-bound shot in the chest and killed.
Oh my god. I guess one other thing I want to mention is that needle drop. That one song that gets dropped in,
where it's like he's out for like a jog with his mom, where she's like jogging.
A roll. He's out for a roll with his mom.
Well, he's out for a roll and she's jogging, but like,
it's okay. Hold on. It's what you just said. Okay, it's not earned at all. This is what's so weird. It's like this little alien creature has been terrorizing this family. Okay, and this kid goes out for a roll with his mom, and it's actually kind of sweet, and especially because this movie does not throw attention at the kid's disability, which is actually kind of great.
I mentioned this earlier. We didn't get back to that, but like that's the thing is like you can say that their choice to like let's get a non-actor, a kid with spina bifida, so that the character is like more sympathetic. That's like cynical on its face.
Yeah.
But the way the movie treats Eric is actually very, very sweet and like never like cynical. And I even like I said, this is why I like the mom. Maybe this is why I like the relationship between the mom. Like when the moment when she brings him into the house and she's like, notice that there's no stairs and everything. Like the way the family is like really protective of him and is really caring. And as you said, the movie just doesn't draw too much unwarranted attention to it. I do. If we're gonna give the movie credit for anything, it's that. Now let's go back to talking about what fucking sucks and the song.
Yeah, and it's like they're. At the same time as they're spending family time together, Mac is in a remote control toddler truck, like toddler car, and he's being chased by like 15 dogs. And he's outrunning these dogs, and then he crashes, and then he basically runs up into a tree, and he's stuck in this tree. And then all of a sudden, while he's stuck in this tree, the camera pans a little bit, and Eric and his mom are going down the hill they're in the background, Mac is in the foreground, and this song comes on, and it's like this weird ballad about friendship. There's a lyric that goes, "Friends forever," and I'm just like, this little monster is one step away from throwing a twig in that guy's spokes. Like this monster is there's nothing here. Why they don't love each other? I don't get it.
Yeah. It's got to be the kind of thing where, like, again, another common, like, it has to be like a song that was made for the movie. It was like, someone like mentioned that song, and they're like, well, we need to have it in the movie somewhere. And then maybe they just like watch the final edit and they're like, oh shit, we have like nowhere to put this song. I don't know, just throw it in here. Like that's the only reason I can think that it pops up when it does.
Well, this is it. I actually have it. Music supervisor Brooks Arthur, who worked on The Karate Kid with Lewis, commissioned the original track from R&B singer Bobby Caldwell. Yeah. And they did another song to use in the big moments, quote unquote. Yeah, I guess that's a big moment. Totally unearned and bizarre, and I kind of burst out laughing, being like, "What the fuck is going on here?"
So, anyways, this gets a huge recommendation from you, huh?
100%, yeah. Mac and me supersize me, Yeah, it's something.
It is something. It is. That's the thing. Like, look, there's no denying it's bad. It's unbelievably bad. But I do think. I saw
somebody say it was like charming, and I was like, "Fuck off!" No, it's not.
No, it's not
this
charming.
This movie is bad, and it's objectively bad. And I think because it crosses that like uncanny valley line of bad that you're witnessing. I guess not a car crash, because that'd be horrifying. Well, I guess the movie is horrifying, but it's like you're witnessing something so fucking bizarre and misguided and just created in a coke-fueled rage, and just so cynical because of the commercial aspect. Fucking Ronald McDonald is there, and you're just like, what am I doing anymore?
By the way, Ronald McDonald, winner of the Worst New Star Razzie that year for this movie.
That's actually kind of funny.
I mean, I hate the Razzies, and like, but
sure.
I'll give it to them. I'll give them to them.
That's a good joke. That's a good joke. Yeah. Me and Trevor are both on Letterboxd, so like check your podcast app and go follow along what we watch. But every once in a while, I like to go see what people are saying about a movie like this, right? And typically speaking, the popular comments or popular reviews on Letterboxd actually sort of suck, and they're not funny at all. It's people trying so hard to be funny. But this one from Film Ape, He watched the movie on July 13th, 2014, gave it 1 star. He says, "Not sure why, but I have the strongest desire to drink a can of Coke, eat some Skittles, head down to McDonald's for a burger, and then hang myself." And I was like, yeah, that's the movie.
Pretty much sums up the Mac and Me experience. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's how this movie is bad on a strange eye twitching level, you know?
Yeah, and that's where I was getting to. Like, I'm not going to sit here and act like I can't go with those people who say it's like legit charming. Yeah, I'm not going to act like it's a good movie, but I will say, if you have like a bad movie night or something, it does come pretty close. Like I said, it's not one of the best bad movies ever. I don't put this up there with like The Room and like The Birdemic, and things like that. Sure. But I think for these insane like 80s kids movies, it has enough like just baffling decisions and what the hell is going on moments that you can have some fun with it with the right mentality. So like that's why it lives on. That's why I think it's like a movie worth a particular kind of movie fan visiting. But on pure like movie, tenets alone, this is one of the worst things we've ever watched. Of course.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's no getting away from that. For sure.
Yeah. Now that said, we did both say we wish there were sequels. Because we do want to see what the. Well, I mean, like, would I watch?
What are they going to do?
Yeah, and it's funny. This is like one of those cases too. I'm sure you saw where like just a couple of years ago, like one of the producers was like, "Oh yeah, we might make some sequels now." There's renewed interest. I like that. Like always happens. R.J. Lewis. It was R.J. Lewis in a 2017 interview. He did not rule out a sequel. He claimed there's public interest because home video sales have made the film profitable, and also said that Mac would resonate with modern young moviegoers.
Oh my god!
But like
sure.
That's always the case. Like you look up these like cult movies, and someone's always talking about making a sequel now. Yeah, I'd watch it. I'm stupid. What can I say? Like,
yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna.
Yeah. You don't hear any arguments over there. That's fine.
I mean, you're the one that's seen this multiple times.
I will say to people, though, if you are a fan of Mystery Science Theater, the season 12 episode of Mac and Me is a really good one. It's one of the better like Netflix era episodes, so worth checking out.
So that'll do it for Mac and Me. We finally did it. This has been on the list since I think day 1 of this podcast. So it took us 3.5 years, but we did it. Next episode in our theme month of FRIENDruary, we're doing another little Best Bud movie, and it's from 2018. It's called Axel, A-X-L. It's a boy and his robot dog. Yeah. Fairly recent, which is kind of fun. I do remember this poster. I recently watched the trailer because of this podcast and realized that Thomas Jane is in it, which is hilarious because we just talked about Thomas Jane a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, but, it's funny because it shows you like the differences in like what can happen with these kind of movies, right? Because Mac and Me is a piece of shit from 1988 that people still talk about and is still a thing. Axel's from just a few years ago, and I would say nobody remembers this movie existing.
No, God no. Yeah. So we will watch it for your listening pleasure. Follow along at F2F Pod. That's at F2, the number 2 F Pod. That's on all the socials. Like us there, like us everywhere. Rate, review, whatever you do. That would be great. Throw us a star rating, please, especially for this one. give us something. Give us something for this. And join the tribe and hit that subscribe. So FRIENDruary is off to a start. One of the starts of all time.
Definitely one of the starts of all time. He's really like, this is some like, shit, what's the word I'm looking for? Give me a word I'm trying to find here.
I mean, this is Fugazi,
I'm trying to think. Okay, I'll just say this.
It's like doublespeak. I'll say that. Yeah, this is really like skating by on a technicality.